Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. Oh.
Everything about. And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I tell you what, the men, they're now all men, the guys I work with down here, and they're all guys at the time. They're all good men. Most of them made an awful lot of themselves. And Earl Larkin had a rough time. And some of you knew Earl. I came back as a public defender.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. I promise you, we're going to bring together Americans of every race, ethnicity. You only arrest for the purpose of dealing with a felony that's committed, and I don't count drunk driving as a felony. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his test and makes your mental state an issue for voters?
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Anyway, I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental as well as my mental fitness.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. Thanks for your time. Please come back in less than 13 years, sir.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Chris. I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck. I'm prepared to say that I have a record of over 40 years and that I'm going to beat Joe Biden. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. Number one, I was a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. It would put 720 million women back in the workforce. It would increase the GDP, to sound like a wonk here. We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the west. 1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happens? They make you management. Okay, does Joe Biden have a brother? I'm lucky I have two younger brothers. I'm the oldest of three, and I've got a sister who's the love of my life. Nobody should be in jail for a nonviolent crime. The pandemic is that the president has no intercourse whatsoever with the rest of the world.
Hey, we're talking about intercourse? All right, I love intercourse.
The country wasn't built by Wall Street bankers, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
Would you or would you not rejoin the TPP, yes or no?
I would not rejoin the TPP as it was initially put forward. My name's Joe Biden. I'm running for, in this case, running for President of the United States. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other person. We're in the middle of a pandemic that had cost us more than 85,000 jobs as of today. Lives of millions of people, millions of jobs. Well, folks, eliminate one tax loophole out of $1.6 trillion worth, $1.4 trillion worth. Out of $1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it, it's so much. And by the way, it's cost a lot of money. It cost about $740 billion over 10 years. My long friend, time friend, and she's a friend, she's been my friend in and out of public life, is... If you want to be part of this campaign, pick up your phones. Pick up your phones. Now. Send a text to the word United to the number 30330. 30330 or 303-330. Or BOO. Wait. You got it. It's on the back there. To say that LGBTQT people have no... Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them. But if Donald Trump is reelected, and I think Secretary, excuse me, I wasn't the press going to say I'm downgrading him by calling him Senator Booker. Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future. Provide a Medicare option. That's exactly what Brock and I talked about in the beginning. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. That has caused carnage on our streets. 150 million people have been killed since 2007 when Bernie voted to exempt the gun manufacturers from liability. More than all the wars.
Stephanie Carter seemed frozen as Biden's grip seemed to last too long. Meanwhile, the newly sworn-in defense secretary continued with his remarks.
I'm grateful to the President and the Vice President for your trust and confidence, and to the U.S. Senate as well.
Things went from uncomfortable to plain awkward as Biden bent down slightly, apparently to whisper in Carter's ear. This so-called awkward moment attracted media interest immediately.
Well, the fortunate thing is I didn't have many larger contributors, and the only reason... See, I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself. And so the younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it. Give me a break. Because here's the deal, guys. We decided we were going to change the world, and we did. We did.
Thank you. Thank you.
What happens now is that we, in fact, have to fundamentally change the culture of how women are treated. That's why, as vice president, when I asked the president I could start the movement on the college campuses to say, it's on us. It's everyone's responsibility. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense, and that's rarely ever occurs. And so we have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching.
Very poor choice of words.
I know more than most people know, and I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on? Let's do push-ups together, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that in MSNBC. You did not hear that. But you heard. Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, Fat, look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have anyone back over in Trump.
other questions? Yeah, all right. I'm not voting for you. Well, I knew you weren't, man. You think I thought you'd stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me.
Welcome to the show. My wife recently left me. She's divorcing me. What can I do to get her back? What advice could you give somebody like me to get her back?
I'll talk to you afterwards, okay? I'm happy to. I promise. I'll talk to you afterwards, all right?
Well, could we just get this out right now because we're live?
No, we're live. I'm beginning to see why your wife left you. That we provide efficiency for appliances. That saves billions of gallons of gasoline. I mean, billions of $2.3 billion worth of, $500 billion in savings and 2-point-something billion metric tons of CO2 going in the air. I promise you, the president has a big stick. I promise you.
Will you ever run for political office again?
No.
Economic plan does nothing to tackle the #1 job facing the middle class, and it happens to be, as Barack says, a 3-letter word: jobs. J-O-B-S. Jobs.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Yeah. First of all, I actually like Dick Cheney for real. I get on with him. I think he's a decent man. In Long Island for 10 years or so, God rest her soul. And although your mom's still alive as your dad passed. Thank you, Dr. Pepper, and thank you, Chancellor, or Dr. Paper, and thank you, Chancellor. I learned a lot, and I learned that it makes a difference. This was the diving board area, and I was one of the guards, and there weren't allowed to. There was a 3-meter board, and if you fell off sideways, you landed on the darn cement over there. And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did, and back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, "Hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off." Well, he came off, and he said, "I'll meet you outside." My car, these were all public housing behind it. My car, there was a gate out here. I parked my car outside the gate. And he said, "I'll be waiting for you." He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke. There was a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the pools. He was the mechanic. And I said, "What am I going to do?" He said, "Come down here in the basement where all the pool filter is. You know the chain, there used to be a chain that went across the deep end. And he cut off a 6-foot length of chain. He folded up, he said, "You walk out with that chain. And you walk to the car and say, 'You may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.'" I said, "You kidding me?" He said, "No, if you don't come back." And he was right. So I walked out with the chain. And I walked up to my car. And in those days, you used to remember the straight razor. You'd bang them on the curb, get them rusty, put them in a rain barrel, get them rusty. And I looked at him, but I was smart then. I said, first of all, I said, when I tell you get off the board, you get off the board, and I'll kick you out again, but I shouldn't have called you Esther Williams. I apologize for that. I apologize, but I didn't know that apology was going to work. He said, "You apologize to me?" I said, "I apologize for that, not for throwing you out."
Personal comments he made about another White House hopeful, Senator Barack Obama, recorded by a reporter for the New York Observer.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
They're going to put you all back in chains. Yes, and by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.